Hollywood's elite are turning heads with their daring ink transformations. From hidden meanings to very bold statements, celebrities are adorning their bodies with pure black ink, sparking controversies across the internet. Today we are diving deep into Kat Von D and Machine Gun Kelly's recent transformations to uncover the mystery behind these celebrity blackout tattoos. So it turns out that Machine Gun Kelly actually didn't go under anesthesia like many of his celebrity counterparts do when he went to go black out almost his entire torso for what he refers to as spiritual purposes. And considering that they used 44 needles and got this done in under 3 weeks, Machine Gun Kelly really turned the idea of ink therapy on its head, as he said that this was one of the most painful experiences he's ever gone through.
Second arm coming along.
We've done about 7 sessions. It's been about 2 weeks since we started. Yeah, this is the most painful I've ever experienced in my life.
Damn, look at the scars on this one.
I know, that's what hurts me.
And the idea of suffering through intense tattoo sessions isn't too uncommon in the tattoo industry. A while back, I made a video all about the Brutal Black project, which is essentially a ritual-like experience where people undergo extremely painful tattoo sessions with multiple artists where they're blacking out significant portions of their body. Oftentimes it goes onto their face with these very distinct, I guess you could say, line work designs. And while the Brutal Black project is widely considered a pretty sadistic practice, more professional blackout artists do consider their work to be a transformative experience that does include their clients going through the pain of these intense sessions and then coming out the other side a changed person. And the tattoo artist that did MGK's Blackout is named Rox, and this is her Instagram profile. She's originally from London, but now she tattoos in Los Angeles. And on Rox's website, she describes her tattoo practice as honoring traditional, indigenous, spiritual, and tribal cultures as she creates designs specific to each of her clients' bodies that Rox views as not merely adorning, but completing them, an external representation of the client's most ideal inner self. Some of these tattooers are poets, and I love it. TMZ reported that MGK explained to Rox that he felt all of his tattoos were too chaotic for who he is now, and he was seeking change and order in his life. So that's why he came to Rox to get this transformative tattoo experience. And Rox's work is incredible and it's really respected in the tattoo community. For people outside of the tattoo community, you might see what Rox does and think that that's simple because she's just coloring in areas with black. It doesn't seem like it's that difficult to do, but in reality, blacking out large portions of people's body is actually really difficult to evenly saturate. And Rox does an incredible job with all of her tattoo designs. It takes a lot of skill and technical ability in order to do what she does, and she does it incredibly well. And MGK posted an Instagram reel of his experience getting these tattoo sessions, and he captioned the reel, "I heard that they thought I went to sleep for this," which I'm assuming is a dig at other famous rappers who do go under anesthesia for their intense tattoo sessions, which kind of is a slay for MGK. And I don't know what Rox's personal preference is when it comes to numbing cream, but I do know that most blackwork artists don't let their clients use numbing cream, and that's because this type of tattooing is so difficult to evenly saturate, and numbing cream changes the texture of people's skin. So it's very possible that MGK used absolutely no numbing assistance at all with this entire blackout. And while Rox is incredibly respected in her industry, people just seem to really dislike MGK. And I honestly don't know why, but people do not like this dude. And you can see that really clearly just from the responses that they get online from each of their posts about MGK's Blackout. In Rox's post, some of the comments say, watching this happen was surreal. You are both warriors. Powerful design, both primitive and modern. Beautiful. Amazing, nice black cover. Amazing as always. Whereas when MGK posted his Blackout, aside from Joe Exotic seriously thirsting over this man, most people were very negative about this. We have watched this dude go through like 7 identity crises. Eminem cooked you to this point, that's crazy. Prayers, depression is no joke. When you fall asleep first at the sleepover, why does it look like a crop top? Does this mean he's not trying to impersonate Peep anymore? So the point is that people were not happy about it. And earlier this month, MGK released a new song called Don't Let Me Go that gave fans a little bit more insight into his decision to get this Blackout done. And in the song, the lyrics say, quote, "Wish I didn't listen, just like I wish they would understand me one time. I had a breakdown and tatted my entire body except one line. Everything's just fine." In this case, I think it's a good thing that they spelled everything right. And some fans took this lyric to mean that the decision to get a Blackout was the breakdown, and this was some big, rash, bad decision that MGK made. But what I think from what we've heard and from the lyric, I feel like he's alluding to the fact that he had a breakdown about his past life, past decisions, and past tattoos. And then after having a breakdown, he decided that he needed to transform and heal into a new version of himself. And that's what is the result of this Blackout. And while it doesn't seem clear if they're still together or not, but Megan Fox weighed in on MGK's transformation. While she was on the Call Her Daddy podcast, Megan said, quote, "The relationship with the tattoos that he had was very conflicted emotionally, but he didn't like to revisit those memories of some of the tattoos that he had, and he wanted to get rid of them." And Megan Fox even went on to admire MGK's new appearance, and she said, quote, "It's like an elevated version of all those tattoos that were pieced together. I think it's really elegant, and it's kind of ahead of its time. I think in 10 years, it'll be a trend." I understand what she's saying, but in the tattoo industry, this is not uncommon at all. And it is a really popular thing for tattoo artists to do once they've collected so many tattoos in their earlier careers and they want to change things up. I love the black work style, especially when it's a blast over of existing old work. I think it looks really good. That's just my personal opinion. I know not everyone agrees with that. But MGK is absolutely not the first person to ever do this and will absolutely not be the last. In fact, famous tattoo artist Kat Von D beat him to it. So let's get into Kat Von D's Blackout. Back in October of last year, Kat Von D revealed on Instagram that she's undergone 17 sessions and almost 40 hours under the needle. Well, actually also 40 needles at one time. And she revealed that she's 80% done blacking out all of her tattoos. In the Instagram post, Kat included a lengthy explanation as to why she's doing this. I'm sure she just anticipated the amount of questions she would be getting about this because people were really attached to Kat Von D and her existing tattoos because she was such a tattoo icon for so long, and now she's blacking out everything. So Kat said, "I had many tattoos that represented part of my life that no longer aligns with who I am today. Some people are fine with keeping these types of landmarks in time on them. I personally grew tired of waking up to them and seeing those constant reminders every time I looked in a mirror." Even if your tattoos are very beautiful and very well done, you can still have negative associations with that tattoo due to where you were in life or who did them. And I feel like that could get really complicated, especially when you're a tattoo artist and you know so many people in the industry. And then when you change and you leave that industry, I'm sure that that is a difficult thing to have a constant reminder of. Kat also anticipated people asking her why not just get laser, and in the post she also addressed that, saying, quote, "I actually did start lasering tattoos, and although I think laser tattoo removal is effective, I personally wasn't a good candidate considering how much coverage I wanted to remove." I can really understand, having gotten laser treatments myself, why Kat would not want to go through that on nearly her entire body. It's incredibly difficult, incredibly painful, the healing sucks. She would be going in for regular treatments for years, maybe even like 5 years for all of these tattoos, maybe even more. And if she likes the aesthetic of black work, I think that this is a great alternative to getting laser. The tattoo artist who's doing this for Kat is an incredibly well-known blackout artist. Some say he's a pioneer in this style. His name is Hood, and he tattoos in Philadelphia at the Black Vulture Gallery. Hood is extremely well known for blacking out huge portions of people's bodies, sometimes, in some people's opinion, going a little too far, but we will get into that a little later. In a post that came just weeks before Kat Von D's Blackout announcement, she discusses her battle with spirituality. In the post, she writes, "I don't know if any of you have been going through changes in your lives right now, but in the last few years, I've come to some pretty meaningful realizations, many of them revolving around the fact that I got a lot of things wrong in my past." And in the post, she goes on to explain that she's letting go of a lot of her macabre interests, and she is finding a lot more meaning in her life now, particularly around Christianity. She said she's even been studying the Bible for the last 5 years. So Kat clearly is shedding her past life. And I think this really started happening when she moved out of Los Angeles and closed her tattoo shop. Now she's transitioning into this new version of herself. And the black work is also helping along in that transition for her. But Kat is also no stranger to negative comments online. And when she went on Theo Von's podcast talking about her blackout, a lot of people had a lot of things to say. I can't decide which is worse, being covered in stupid tattoos or looking like you just got into a fight with a printer. This is just insane. Why would someone do this to themselves? And the top comment on this video says, "Imagine how many blackface or black body jokes Theo had to hold in." And this brings us to our biggest criticism of blackout tattoos, in that some people think that they're adjacent to doing blackface. Firstly, Kat Von D is Hispanic, but clearly a very, very pale individual. Machine Gun Kelly is a white man, and we can't ignore that these very light-skinned individuals are covering large portions of their bodies with black ink. This Instagram page, Ink the Diaspora, is a platform for visibility for dark-skinned folks who struggle to find representation in the tattoo industry. And it's run by this user, OK Then Tan, and they asked their community what they think about white people getting huge portions of their body blacked out. And some of the responses definitely vary. Some people saying an arm or leg is fine, but the whole body gets a little weird. Some people think that cover-ups are different, but full blackouts for aesthetics are problematic. Others think it's an extension of blackface. And there was this response that I thought was really interesting, so I'll read it in full. Someone said, "Seeing white people or anyone light-skinned with blackout tattoos makes me highly uncomfortable. Of course, the effect doesn't actually make them look like a black person, but at the end of the day, there is something about the effect that is definitely bordering on blackface. It may not be a parody of black skin, but it is sort of appropriation, and to make it worse, it's permanent." I really understand the criticism of white people getting almost in some cases, their entire bodies blacked out, and how that makes people of color incredibly uncomfortable. Me, a white person who obviously I can't say whether or not this is cultural appropriation or not, but even me just looking at some of these tattoos that Hood does, it gives me like an icky feeling as well, and it doesn't feel right. I understand that that is incredibly uncomfortable for people of color to see, especially when that's not covering up any other tattoos. That's purely just for the aesthetic of having black ink in your skin. Truly, it could not highlight somebody's privilege more than having their face and neck be white and the rest of their body black ink. Like some of the commenters said, this is clearly not black skin, it's ink in their skin, which is a different look. But I don't think we can ignore the fact that there is an ickiness about this type of coverage. And me, as a white person, obviously I can't say what's right and what's wrong, but it's clear from a lot of those comments that this is making people of color incredibly uncomfortable. And we definitely cannot ignore that. And we also have to consider that the blackouts take tradition from indigenous tattooing practices, which of course were made by people of color. And now white people are kind of jumping on the train and going away with it, as they typically do. Another common criticism that this tattoo style gets, and particularly with MGK and Kat Von D, is that they're trying to make tattoos different again. And Kat Von D actually explicitly talked about this in her interview with Theo Von.
I feel like ever since I started blacking out my tattoos, I feel like I went back to the time where people hated tattoos again, because people just do not like this. They're very confused by why I'm doing this. Every time I post progress shots, it's always like, why are you doing this to yourself? Like, this is so ugly. Like, this is,
And in a comment on this video that was reposted to TikTok, someone said, I think nowadays it's more different not to have tattoos. I think it was last year that the Pew Research Center revealed that I think it was even over 30% of Americans now have at least one tattoo. And tattoos are definitely more commonplace now, and you see them a lot more in your daily life and in media as well. But still, while tattoos are so common, extreme styles of tattooing like heavy black work are still very niche when it comes to the general public. So I can definitely see why celebrities might want to distance themselves from what everyone else looks like, because everyone else has your typical tattoo now. In a Reddit thread about Kat Von D's Blackout, a commenter wrote, "It sounds like a part of the reason why she's doing it, as she misses standing out. For a long time, it was rare to see a person with a full sleeve or more, but now it's super common. So she wants to take it a step further where she feels good at getting those weird looks. Not judging, but it isn't good to let the popularity of something get in the way of your enjoyment of it." I think that's a really interesting comment, and it definitely points to like this trend cycle of the popularity of things. Right now, tattoos seem to be really popular, and I can see from a celebrity standpoint that they want to be so different that they might opt for getting this extreme type of tattoo. In another Reddit thread, a commenter wrote, "In 10 years, blackout will be seen as cliche and overdone as full sleeves and neck/chest tats are now. And people will probably cycle back to no or few tattoos until they are cool again." This whole idea of a trend cycle when it comes to something like tattoos is really interesting because they are permanent for the most part. And while we did talk about how black work has been around for a long time and these celebrities aren't doing anything different, celebrities do usually mark what's popular for more of like the general population of people. So maybe this marks the point where heavy blackouts are going to become more popular among not just the tattoo community, but the wider community at large. And then maybe, like that commenter said, in 10 years, it'll be lame to have a blackout sleeve. For me, and for most people that I know with tattoos, the reason they have them is just because they like the art and they wanted it on their bodies. The only thing I think with this whole trend cycle is if someone sees, oh, Kat Von D blacked out her whole arm, now I'm gonna go black out my whole arm too. Then that might lead to obviously regret or problems down the road. But for people who just get tattoos purely for themselves and for the artwork of it, I don't think they need to worry about this whole trend cycle thing. I personally like the tattoos that MGK and Kat Von D have. I think they definitely both have a lot of reasons why they're transforming into newer versions of themselves. And if this type of transformation helps them move on and heal, I think that that's a great thing for both of them. Obviously, I can't speak to the cultural appropriation aspect of it, but purely from a tattoo enthusiast's perspective, I do admire the style and I think it suits them both very well. But with that, I would love to know what you all think about Kat Von D and MGK's recent transformations getting significant portions of their bodies blacked out. Do you think that it borders on cultural appropriation, or do you think it's okay because it's covering existing work? Also, what do you think about the trend cycle when it comes to tattoos and celebrities and the general person looking to get a tattoo? Let me know in the comments down below. But if you've made it to the end of this video, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If you have, leave me this emoji in the comments so I know that you are a real one. Bye everyone.